She's not going to get anymore.
National State, are y'all ready?
We are ready when you are.
So good afternoon, future OT practitioners, both here in Memphis and also our new friends at National State. We're kind of trying out an experiment in doing this on Zoom and then kind of the format that we have for things, which we're going to talk about today, including the whole assignment. But I'll start off by saying for the students that don't know me, I'm Stephanie Lancaster. I'm one of the faculty members at the University of Tennessee Health Science Center in Memphis, and I'll let you guys, or I'll let you at least introduce yourself if you'd like.
Oh, you said me introduce myself. Sorry. I am Allie Nicole Ndida. I'm a CODA, a licensed certified CODA, and I work here at Nashville State. I'm new to the program. I just started teaching last August, but we are really excited for this project and working with you guys through this.
All right. Oh, if I can get the slides work. Okay, so here is our agenda, because it's always good to know what to expect when you can. We're going to start out and talk about artificial intelligence. What is it? How can we define it? And then we'll talk about everyday examples, because as you may or may not know, we're all already using it. So we'll get into that. Then we'll talk about the benefits and risks of using AI in our profession, and some examples of ways that it could be used productively, helpfully in our profession, and then maybe future possibilities. Then we're going to have a demo of how it could be used, and then we're going to get into the assignment, which you all will work on collaboratively with your OT and OTA student teams. But before we get any further, I do want to ask you guys to, if you did not, as part of the prep work, to take just a few minutes and complete the survey. So my students should have the link. So if you didn't already do it, please take a minute and do it. We'll just take about 3 or 4 minutes to do this, I think. If you want to use the tiny URL, you can just type in tinyurl.com/OT-IPP25, and that'll be a shortcut to it. So we'll just work on that quietly for about 4 minutes.
Hey, Stephanie, our class has done the link as well. So if y'all are all done, then we are good to go.
Okay, is everybody done with the survey? Did y'all do it? Okay, y'all come on in. All right, good, good. Then we can save a little time. That's good. Good job, everybody. Okay, so as a reward, we're gonna do something fun. We are going to play a Kahoot. Now this is a game that I like to play, and I hope the students do too. They pretend like they do, so we'll say they do. All right, so you might have an app on your phone that's a Kahoot app, but if you don't, you can just go to on a phone or a computer, www.kahoot.it. And then you're going to be prompted to enter, or you can scan this QR code. QR, there I go. But you'll be prompted to enter the game PIN number so we can all fill that together. And my rule is you can use a pretend name if you want, just nothing ugly. You don't have to use your real name unless you just feel like it. And the PIN number is 4379106. So there's just a few questions. It's going to be a little quiz just to kind of get us going. And that's kahoot.it and then 4379106. We got some cute little characters in there. All right, about 30 more seconds and then we will start. So if you are having trouble logging in, it's okay. You can just play along with us in your head. You will still get the benefits of doing this. So don't let the technology stress you out if it's giving you a run for your money this afternoon. Here we go. Do you see the use of artificial intelligence in society as being mostly bad or risky or mostly good, helpful? Oh, okay, so we got mostly good. I think the point that we're trying to make here that you probably already figured out is that there are pros and cons. Like a lot of things and a lot of things technology, and we're going to talk about those today. We were just kind of wanting to get a feel right out of the gate about your feelings. All right, here's another one. What's the primary focus of the article you read, the one called The Current State of AI, Its Role in Treatment Planning? What was that article about? Ooh, y'all are quick. Okay, so yes, most people got it. It was about the integration or use of AI in treatment planning in our profession. Next one. What is the article's stance on AI's role in OT? Okay, most people got that. So it didn't really advocate for the immediate adoption of AI in all therapy practices. I think that's too broadly sweeping of a statement, but it didn't argue against it. It really provided a snapshot of the current state and maybe even the potential for use of AI in OT. All right, one more. What potential benefit of AI in OT is highlighted in the article? Everybody got it? Yes. It really was about intervention or treatment planning. Definitely not reducing the need for involvement of an OT practitioner or standardizing or cookie cuttering all therapy sessions. We don't want to do either of those two things, but we wouldn't mind having our treatment planning streamlined or enhanced. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. All right, it gives a little quick podium based on the correct responses on not the first question, but the other three, and how quickly people got it correct. So here we go. Just for fun. Just moving this around, I think. All right. So let's go on, if I can get out of that. There we go. All right. Let's go on with our topic for today, our presentation. All right, so we really have one big learning objective for today, and this goes with the assignment that is associated, which we're going to explain at the end. When presented with a scenario of a client with a neurological deficit, you will explore the use of AI and engage in intra-professional collaboration to generate a treatment plan that aligns with the client's needs and adheres to the parameters of evidence-based practice. So that's really a mouthful. So really, you're just going to work together. You're going to dip your toe in using AI to plan a treatment plan that is client-centered and evidence-based. So in short, that's what we're doing. So I wanted to start out and ask if anybody wants to be brave enough to say how the way that you might define AI, just in regular language. Anybody want to jump on that?
Just like overall response of the internet, like responding to what your input is.
Okay, yeah, that's good, Caitlin. So overall response to what the internet or technology is saying based on your response. That's kind of how I define it too. If we really dig into like a more technical definition, it's technology designed to simulate human intelligence through algorithms and data. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is when computers and machines are designed and built and programmed to, this is in quotes, think and learn like humans. It means that the machine can solve problems, make some decisions, and even understand language and images that are inputted into the system. So here's how it works. AI uses publicly available data and information coupled with human feedback, or that input that Caitlin mentioned, to interact with humans as instructed. Now this is important. The system isn't thinking, or it's not using what we use and think of as common sense. Instead, it generates a response based on information to which it has access in response to the prompts entered. So I'm emphasizing a couple things there that I want to really underscore even more. The first is the information to which the system or the AI has access. So it will search publicly available databases. Now it can't like log into the AOTA website and access member-only content. It can't, get journal articles that are behind a paywall, but anything that's essentially like Googleable, it can get to. Also, if people have entered stuff into it before, it can get to that information. So important takeaway from what I just said is that some of it may not be 100% accurate. Some of it might have been accurate at one point, but maybe it's not current. Maybe we know more then, but the machine doesn't know more because it hasn't had access to that information yet. So that's kind of the point of this assignment that we're going to talk about is the way we understand how AI can be used. The other second part that I was talking about there is that it generates a response based on information it has access to, but also in response to the prompt. So there are two things that are your job if you are going to use AI for anything, really. One is responsible ethical use. So you're not gonna assume that what the output what response you get from AI is accurate. You're gonna use your clinical thinking, your common sense, your knowledge and experience, and other resources that you have access to fact check it. The second thing is, what you get out of AI is dependent on the quality of your prompt that you develop. So we're gonna talk about development of a good prompt. You can actually ask kind of the same questions in 2 different ways or more than 2 and get different responses, which may or may not be good for what you're using it for. So always think about that. The way I first started coming to understand AI is to think of it as almost like a personal assistant or like a graduate assistant, someone like an aide in the classroom, or that I had for my work, like an administrative assistant maybe. And so if I ask someone in one of those roles, can you look up some articles on the newest advances in hip replacement surgery? And then it generated out a summary of that. It's my responsibility not to assume that all of that is definitely factual. I have to fact check it. Now it kind of pointed me in the right direction and gave me some content as a starting point or launch pad, but I'm not going to just submit or go with the information that came out of what I put in for my response. So really important. Let's talk about, well, let me ask you all this. What are some ways that people, including us, are already using AI? Not necessarily in our jobs, but just in everyday life. Yes?
We make up bedtime stories for my kids.
We make up bedtime stories for our kids. That's a really good one. Yes?
But with ChatGPT, you have to put grammar only, like don't fix anything because it will change your words. So I'm very picky on that.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's certain words you have to say on ChatGPT, so they won't change anything like your content, like what you say in your specific paragraph.
Okay, so all right, we're all learning here. So that's important, and that you probably learned that the hard way. Yeah, most of what we learn about that's how we learn it, by doing it and thinking, what? Anybody else have an example? Yes?
It will write workouts for you. Like, there are definitely days where like, I don't even know what I want to do at the gym today. And I'll tell them my goal and it will generate a program.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, I'm gonna give y'all the microphone to make sure that our friends can hear.
Just gonna say like coping strategies where you're going through, just give you like grounding, exercise, do this, do that. And it gives you, like, you can pick different responses, like what do you prefer? So like, go with that for the next response.
That's a really good one. I haven't seen that. Good ideas. All right, got another one.
So I really haven't used any like AI, like looked for something, but I know on Google now, like it has that little, like if you Google something, it pulls up like everything with the basic knowledge behind it. And I honestly like that, because I can just type in and just see what it is.
Yeah, so those are some great ideas, y'all. I'm impressed. I will tell you that when I was kind of during the height of the pandemic, I spent a lot of time by myself in my house, had a lot of time on my hands, and so I set up my house like a smart home. So I got voice activated light switches and appliances, like it could turn on my electric blanket, and I set it to coordinated with my phone so that when I walk in my house, certain lights come on, music comes on. It reminds me when to feed my cat, and it's it doesn't always work because sometimes the electricity in the town goes out, but it's a cool, that is AI. So we can use it through voice assistants, like, I hope I don't set anybody's device off, but like Siri and Alexa and Google Assistant, all those to say, every day when I get up, I ask, what's the weather? What should I wear today? And sometimes she says, I don't know, whatever you want to wear. But responding to commands, telling you to play music or map out something, or what time should I leave if I'm trying to get here, and they'll tell you. Yes.
I was gonna even, okay,
I was even gonna say, there's this feature on ChatGPT where you can talk to someone and you like put in the criteria of it. So like my little brother talked to Santa. And then, also like if you, like as like a student wanted to talk to a client, you just put in the stuff that you want and then you can practice that way too. So I thought that was interesting. They're looking at this stuff.
So cute. I love it. I'm gonna have to try that. All right, I'm not gonna go too far on a limb like I sometimes do, but I'm gonna tell you that yesterday I listened to a podcast. I think it was Hidden Brain, but it was about this guy whose wife had passed away, and he set up an AI to play the role of his deceased wife. And he like had it in his phone, so he took her to their kids' baseball games, and he said, you know, I know it's not real, and even the bot knows it's not real, but it's helping me process my grief. And I thought that is a real high tech, you know, that's a modern day way. We did not have that available much in the past. But let's think about some other ways. I think it's really all around us, like streaming. When you go on Netflix, how do you think it gives you those recommendations? That's why it makes you log in, so it can like, what has Noah been watching? I'm gonna make some recommendations I think might help him out. So, you know, it's things like that that we may not even think of. A lot of stuff in our smartphones, if you sign in or log in or unlock your phone by fingerprint or facial recognition, that's AI. Certainly if you go on Amazon or another website and you are logged in, or even if your computer is recognizing cookies, it's using AI to give you ads, product suggestions, things like that. So even in online shopping, definitely navigation apps, things like that. Yeah.
I learned that, like some apps, it's like in the terms and conditions of stuff, and like people say that their phone is listening to them, it's because like actually is, like there's like something in like the conditions, like in some things where it's like, oh yeah, we'll have access to like your microphone, and it's like to help like just for like product and like marketing and like advertising and stuff. I was like, now I decline everything, because I'm horrified.
I do not agree.
I do
with those
not.
terms. Yes. So, I mean, we're starting to talk about some stuff that's a little kind of scary, kooky.
Since the podcast yesterday, I had to listen to for the prep work, the Ella column that creates like the social stories and the visual cards and things like that. I thought that was really cool because we did those a lot in the clinic I used to work at. So I like sent it to my old boss and she's like, I'm gonna look into it because it was really cool because you could like personalize it to your each client.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I mean, and we've come a long way from the days when I used to write social stories literally on the back of a paper towel that I got out of school bathroom because that's all I had. The kid was throwing a fit and I was like, well, let me do that. Now I can just use my phone or computer for that. If you have ever gone on a website and like, let's say the like cable company or something, and it says, it's a 27-minute wait, or you can just chat with somebody. That's probably not a real person. That's probably a chat bot that's asking you, what is your concern? And then it has like an FAQ library available. So if you say, well, you know, why is this happening? It can give you these pat answers. So maybe that's helpful in some situations and saves us time and saves us from having to think about some things. But again, sometimes it makes the service actual human contact something that we can't get and we really want to. So good examples. National safety, y'all want to add anything to that? I don't want to exclude y'all.
Yeah, you guys touched on a good chunk of it. I would say I see it mostly when I'm on social media and I have ads that are influenced into me based on things that I've looked up before, and even movies that I've watched, other things and means of that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of can venture into the helpful or the kind of scary. So let's do an experiment right now. I'm going to talk about rainbow doormats. I like outside doormats and I like it when they have rainbow colors and cute things on it. So now I want you to notice, if you start getting an ad on your phone about rainbow doormats, you'll have a clue as to what's happening.
Actually, I can tell you. My brother was showing me this AI app that generates songs, and it like puts the lyrics that, I guess you don't write the lyrics, but you can say, write a song about my OT class being a part of an AI lecture with Nashville State Community College, and it would put it to music and like have all these different lyrics, so it's really cool.
Okay, we should do
You get
that.
one for something.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, so lots of good ideas. We're all learning stuff. Thanks, everybody, for sharing. All right, so let's zoom our lens in and talk more about specifically the use of AI in OT. And so I want to ask you, and I bet if you did the prep work or you even just saw the title of this class session, I hope you maybe put a little thought into this. What's a potential benefit of using AI, any of the things we just talked about in our practice as OT practitioners? Anybody got any thoughts? Or maybe you've seen some of it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, how I was talking about, like, during Christmas break, like, you can put in criteria for AI to, like, be a client or to be another, like, professional and, like, kind of work on how you would, like, speak to them, like, professionally. So that's one way that you could use it.
Yeah. That's, because we do need to practice, like, having difficult conversations or delivering hard news, and I would way rather do that in a situation where I'm not gonna mess it up to a real person.
Knowing that it's gonna be using multiple resources into one spot is time saving. You still have to filter through it to make sure, but that's really time saving.
Great point.
The podcast talked about the efficiency of AI in documentation, so how AI can help you make your documentation concise and accurate, and how it can like cut down really heavily on the time it takes to write for one client.
Good example. Anybody else? Okay, so they said yours. All right, couple more. These are good examples, whether you've read about them, heard about them, imagined them, or seen them in practice.
Doing the prep work, I listened to the podcast, and one thing that you mentioned, I was like, wow. You said if you don't know how to use it, it can replace our profession, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's always good to know.
Yeah. Yes.
When reviewing the prep work, it mentioned it can make like specialized grading scales for when you're trying to reach goals. And the example was like a child having behavioral issues in the classroom and they need a grading scale for that. And so AI was able to help generate that. And I thought that was really neat.
Good idea. So I would say if we're talking in kind of broad sweeping terms to think about what the potential benefits of it in our profession could be, one, and you all kind of mentioned this in different words, enhancing efficiency. Because, time is finite. We all only have so much time on our hands. And in some settings, there are productivity demands. And, in every setting where you work, you're going to be busy. You don't have time to sit around and think for half an hour about what you're going to write. You just got to get it down. And you may need help or benefit from help in like shaping it so that it really aligns with something, or bringing up a resource if it's a diagnosis you need more information about. Supporting clinicians, even looking at what theory, what framework, what are the risk factors, things like that. And then another one that is important to think about is health equity potential. And that really expands access to information in underserved communities. If they don't know, what is this diagnosis or this medication or this term that a medical professional is using, they really cannot benefit, and it might even be, put them at risk if that's the case. So I would say we can use it ourselves to enhance our efficiency and enhance or expand our access to materials and information. But also, we don't need to forget, we can teach our clients to use it out there for things that they may need to do, like develop a grocery list or, help me write a letter to my mom or my next door neighbor or my boss. Help me figure out what these terms mean. So let's move on to potential limitations. So with the benefits comes potential risks, and we kind of touched on these, and one big thing that was said that we need to get back to is if AI is not used correctly and ethically, it does put us in our profession and our clients at risk. So that's why we're having this discussion. And that's why we're starting to be able to see this topic come up in the OT literature. And it's really important to keep your ear to the ground on that. So let's talk about what the limitations or risk of the use of AI might be.
Because it doesn't think, if you don't put something in the prompt, it can lack some personalization for the client. So although it can give you a treatment method, it's not going to be fit for that one person. It's going to be using all the references it found rather than what Pat likes to do or what John likes to do. And so it doesn't have that human thought process of what are they actually interested in, what makes them happy, what's their motivation, unless you specifically write it out.
So important, because we are known for being person or client centered, and it's so important that we do that with the therapeutic use of self and our knowledge and experience so that we keep that reputation for our profession.
I think another thing is once it's available, you'll kind of get used to using it, and then it's kind of like if you don't use it, you lose it, and I think that you might lose like your ability to like look up articles and look up things on your own, because your phones are dependent on them.
For sure. That, to be honest, is I think the biggest fear of all educators in this country.
Hey,
right?
Stephanie, we have a comment on this as well.
One of the big limitations or risks of using AI would be not getting correct information. So it just pulls from everything on the internet, not necessarily first sources. You know, Bob can type up something and you can use it, and doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, I think, thank you for that's so true. Back a few years ago, y'all probably remember people saying like, oh, don't just use Wikipedia as your source. Well, I'm here to tell you, Wikipedia is not that easy. I one time tried to modify the Wikipedia page of this organization, and it wouldn't verify me, it wouldn't let me do it. So it's not as loosey-goosey as some other things out there, but you're right, it could be on somebody's blog, or who knows, that they can get it off their Facebook post where they write something and it's not at all true, or it's partially true, but also not all the way. And so we really have to be careful about that. Let's hear some more.
I think too with getting people back to their occupations, if they don't learn about it correctly, they may think of like loopholes of way to do things instead of learning the things that you're teaching them. So kind of like not allowing them to get too comfortable with just using what's at their fingertips.
You are not going to pass the NBC-OT exam if you use AI throughout OT or OTA school. That is for sure. So yes. Somebody over here?
Kind of like you said, it's not really like evidence-based. So like it can be coming from anywhere, and then you can't really back it up. So that also gets into like how much good are you doing, and like is it billable?
So important. Yes. I mean, really, if anybody can just ask ChatGPT, what should I do if I, have carpal tunnel, and it's spitting it out and they're doing it, our profession is at risk. Now, what you all have said is very true. What the response may be, it may even be dangerous. It may not be correct.
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to say, like just making sure our patients are educated if we are directing them to use that, especially during treatment, because you can get incorrect responses or multiple responses, and some of those can be scary. Like I'm sure we've all been like down the WebMD, like rabbit hole. It's like a picture of a bruise. You're like, oh, it's just a bruise, or stage 4 cancer. Like, and so then you're like, yeah, well, which one is it? Yeah.
Or you can scare yourself doing that. We have to really limit that.
One thing that he said was about being careful with like HIPAA, because people be putting like the client's names, and it's all in the database. So anybody can probably get that information. So it's just being careful with that.
Well, okay, let's take one more and then I'm gonna kind of sum this up.
Another issue that they're having is pseudo relationships. People are like putting so much into this thinking that it's real and they're making connections. It's a machine. It doesn't feel about you the way that you feel about it. It's okay for your grandpa to have somebody to talk to, but make sure that it's talking to real people.
So it can interfere with something that's in our scope of practice, which is social participation. So it actually can almost kind of create work for us, right, in some cases. So I'm gonna sum up what was said here as far as limitations, lack of nuance, and that kind of speaks to like the client-centeredness. The thing that I think most, or maybe all of us love the most about OT is that it's an art and a science, and that art part is so important. Not just anybody can do it, not just anybody off the street. That's why we have to go to school and pass a certification exam and get licensed and go to continuing ed. Reliability issues, ethical concerns, confidentiality, even coupled with that informed consent. If you're asking, and identifying information, does your client know that you're doing that? Because kind of like somebody said about the terms of usage earlier, I don't think any of us are gonna be okay with a medical professional entering personal stuff about us in an identifying way. And then it's just out there in the internet. So kind of the big point here is it's out there, it's being used. There are good ways that it can help us and our clients and really society at large, but there's some risks, and it's part of our professional responsibility to know the risks and to try to avoid them or work around them so we can minimize. All right, we kind of said these, but I was trying to put these, what I thought y'all might say, into categories. So supporting social skills, role playing, social scripts or social stories for people, home program development, and I've seen it used a good bit for that. And some of what I've seen come out is good, some of it is not good. It almost seems like a PT home plant program, or just one you could have copied straight out of a cookbook kind of textbook. It's not individualized. Health literacy, I kind of mentioned that. Addressing the jargon that we all know that clients and sometimes even we struggle with out there. And then intervention planning, and I kind of saved that last one to end on here because that's what we're talking about specifically. So when key information is entered into an AI system like ChatGPT, AI can assist with planning activities and generating ideas for OT intervention. The key word there is the word assist. So in purple at the bottom, the key takeaway is AI can complement OT efforts, but requires human oversight and adaptation. We never just want to take it at its word and put that out there as fact and as being person-centered and evidence-based when we haven't done the work. Future possibilities and collaborative potential. So we are seeing AI grow almost every month. It seems like there's more and more out there. That's why all of our phones have updates all the time. And sometimes we like it. Sometimes we wish it would stay the way it was, but we're along for the ride there. AI tools can be used as aids for brainstorming or supplementing intervention planning, not replacing human judgment or our clinical reasoning skills. And then the collaborative potential, how can we as OT practitioners and students shape AI development to better meet the needs of the clients? I'm gonna tell y'all about something and then I'll give you the resource once I look it up, but there is a professor, I think she teaches at Belmont, and she's pretty active on social media and she's real witty, and she told ChatGPT just like a week or two ago to roast the OT profession. And it was actually pretty good. It was pretty good. It was like, it really got us in our sensitive spot. Like saying, like, how after 100 years does nobody still know what you are? But she had it do some other things, like she had it grow the PT and stuff too, and it was pretty funny. So, you know, there's some creative, not super important things that you can use it for out there, but I think it would be important for us to educate it. If you are put in a prompt and it says something and you're like, yeah, that wouldn't be right, or that wasn't what I was asking, you can give it on ChatGPT a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or you could enter something kind of like I do with my Alexa, and I'll say, that's not what I was even asking you, and we'll kind of go back and forth. But I think with that, we're teaching them in a big way, because then it's kind of carried over to the next person that may say, what really is OT? So in conclusion, AI is a powerful tool with significant potential to support our practice, but it is not a substitute for what we know or what we do in our profession. So very, very important. And you all can be the ambassadors really for carrying that message forward. If you're in a clinical situation or just a chit chat conversation and somebody's saying something like, I wouldn't even pay a rehab person because I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT what I should do when my shoulder's killing me. You gotta, in a compassionate, respectful way, set the record straight. And that's, kind of something we're needing to do alongside our education about what is OT out there. All right, so we're gonna kind of get into now a demonstration. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Thanks. All right.
Okay. Can I also share my screen?
Yes, it is wide open.
Okay. Give me just 1 second.
Yep, no problem. We're right on schedule.
Dr. Lancaster, was that a video that someone did of the roast OT? Or was it just like?
Was it? Oh, okay. Her name is Taylor Prezell. She's very funny. She's really young and hip.
No, that was a great post. That was like that story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm doing it.
Okay. Why are they over there? Okay. I think we've got ourselves situated here. Some of the questions with ChatGPT that Ms. Lancaster and I have discussed prior to this collaboration is, first of all, how do you access it? I think most of you all, I know all of my students know that ChatGPT, you have to have internet. To be able to access ChatGPT, you can have a free account, and it doesn't require any money. You don't even have to set up an account. The way I have it pulled up right here so you can see on the screen, you can click try it for free when you go to chatgpt.com, and it will pull up a prompt right here that says, what can I help you with? And you can type in any and everything that you might need help with whenever you're accessing ChatGPT. To get a good therapeutic prompt to get activities for the neurological deficits like we've talked about with this assignment, to be able to get a good, what is the word I'm looking for? A good, accurate therapy intervention, you're going to want to give it a good prompt with as much detail as possible. So I would type in, like, provide an occupational therapy activity to improve activity and standing tolerance for a CVA patient. When you're doing this, you're going to want to, of course, like we've talked about, what ChatGPT is going to give you requires human adaptations, like we've talked about. So you're going to want to go through and skim through what it says, And make sure that one, it is a good OT focus and it's not like a modified PT therapy intervention versus versus actually being OT focused, being client centered. You're going to want to adapt what they have and make sure it is centered towards your client, their goal, and their priorities. Chat GPT can come up with 5 exercises or 5 different activities, but if none of them are important to your client, then it's not going to be functional for that client specifically. All information provided by Chat GPT should be checked when it's provided. Often I have run into, sometimes it gives you incomplete information, like our student Amber mentioned, it just pulls from multiple sources and they're not always valid sources. It could be anything that anybody has just put out on the internet. So you want to make sure that it's good evidence-based practice in what you're doing. There has to be clinical reasoning behind why you're implementing the treatment that you are implementing, even if you get it from ChatGPT. And it has to follow a plan of care. As we know, as OT practitioners, each client is evaluated and then their plan of care is established. And you have to follow that for it to be covered through insurance and for it to be good evidence-based practice. So you want to make sure that you're following the plan of care, what you're doing is good and ethical, and is following all guidelines that you need. Additionally, I kind of wanted to add and kind of piggyback off of some of the things y'all said a little earlier. Making an HEP, like a home exercise program with this, is something I have done just a little bit, but in a educational course that our Nashville State campus did, a campus-wide course for the teachers, we talked about English as a second language and using ChatGPT and AI to assist those who have English as a second language. We have several on staff here that English is not their native language, and they either use ChatGPT from their native tongue to translate to English to communicate what they need to. So they're making sure they're using appropriate grammar and local phrases and things like that, making sure what they're doing is appropriate for their audience, or using ChatGPT to put in the information that they're teaching their students, or like in our case, if we're making an HEP, we would put in the information that we wanted to give them for their HEP or understanding their diagnosis, things like that. And then if I know my client is reading at a 3rd grade level because English is not their first language, I can say, modify this to be at a 3rd grade reading level in English so that they can better understand what I'm trying to tell them and I'm not giving them entirely too much information that's way over their head. Does anybody have any questions? Memphis?
Good. That's a good point. I wasn't thinking about English as a second language.
It wasn't something I thought about prior to the staff mentioning it, and they also had students come in and talked about how they, the students who have English as a second language use it as well. And that is when we got to the different reading levels and levels of understanding because of language barriers.
Do we want to move on to the assignment?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Unless you want me to type in like a prompt to give.
Yeah, let's do that so we can just talk about what it happens to get to put out.
All right, I will type in a prompt real quick. I did. A lot of things wrong.
So we're looking for an OT treatment plan for someone who has had a CBA, looking at how to specifically target standing tolerance for occupational performance. Okay, so improve ability to stand for longer periods of time and engage in functional activity safely. So what I like about that is it did directly address the prompt, but it also pulled in occupational performance or function. So we know that it's an OT goal, so that was smart that it did that. And then it gives specific information about static standing, leg strengthening exercise, progressive standing exercises, endurance training, and then increasing core and lower body strength. So one thing I'm looking for there that I don't see so far is a connection into activity or occupation as the intervention. It's mostly kind of exercise or biomechanical based.
Right, and that was, like I had mentioned earlier, when you're combing through it, you need to make sure it's more occupational based and not like a modified PT. So if I'm coming through this and I see that it has a lot of exercises and it doesn't tie back to the occupation, I can type in, as you mentioned earlier, Stephanie, trying to adapt what it is giving us and create an activity to incorporate meal prep. So then it can make me another activity. And it gives equipment and adaptations needed, like non-slip mats and a sturdy floor. As well as an activity breakdown.
Yeah, that's much better. So that kind of come behind second prompt made all the difference, really.
Right. The other thing, like I mentioned earlier, if depending on your client's level of independence, I think y'all mentioned you don't want to put your clients all of their personal and medical information into ChatGPT because then it's just out there on the internet, right? So depending on your client's level of function is going to depend on how well they're able to function within this activity that ChatGPT is supplying. The difference between a therapist being able to come up with the activity independently versus using ChatGPT is I know my client's level of function, whereas ChatGPT doesn't. So if my client has, I'm trying to look at one of these activities, if they only have like use of their right hand and they don't have the adaptive equipment to be able to cut and peel their own fruits and vegetables, like it's mentioned right here. Or if they can only stand for a minute, you're going to have to make accommodations for that as well. Like a different device instead of, like this says, a stable peeler or a rocker knife to cut. If that's not going to be a good fit for them, then maybe like a food slicer, like food processor, being able to plug that in and then insert the fruit or vegetable so that it can cut or grate, and then making adaptations for like, if they can only stand for 1 minute, then I'm going to have to give them a rest break or have a chair close by so that we can sit down and then re-engage in the activity once they're ready.
Yeah, really, really important points, I think, that it's not the machine, it's not the AI that knows the specifics or the client. So that's why it's collaborative or supportive rather than a substitute.
Exactly.
All right, that looks good. All right, well, if y'all are ready, we'll get into the assignment because I bet you are wondering. All right. So let me There again, and get out of this. Okay, so we're gonna show you the exact documents, or I'll kind of walk you through that exact document, but this is in a nutshell the timeline. So of what your assignment will be, you're gonna, of course, read the instructions, and there is a case study there. Then you're gonna meet with your team, and we'll show you where the teams are listed, to talk about the assignment and the case, and you're gonna wanna look at what the form you have to fill out for the assignments, because some of that is gonna be answered in your team discussion. It'll come from that actual interaction when you meet via Zoom, or if you could do FaceTime or Google Meet or whatever you want. But you all will work out a time to meet with your partner in between Memphis and Nashville. And most people have 2 people to meet with, but there are a couple of groups that are just 2 total. And then each person will complete the written assignment, the documentation, and submit it as assigned. So you can work on it collaboratively, but you're not submitting, just one per group. You're really submitting individually. So let me get to, this is, of course, for the national state, this is what our learning management system looks like. Well, there's a lot there. So you're gonna have some time to do this, to work on this together, so you'll book that appointment with each other. On our Blackboard, it is under IPE assignment, and then you have all the materials. So and then here I listed the same step 1, 2, and 3. And for my students, this is due in about a month, March 12th. So you've got some time, but you all want to, cooperate and figure out your schedules together. And this is what the assignment actually looks like. So it tells you that you will access ChatGPT and then enter a prompt that you're going to come up with. But for the purposes of this assignment, part of that prompt you can copy and paste from the case study. But then you're going to tell it what to do with that information. And what you're trying to come out with is a draft of an OT intervention plan for a 50-minute long OT session in an outpatient clinic setting. Then, once you get that output from ChatGPT, you're going to critically examine it. Look at it, see, based on what you know, is that good ideas? Is it, really not good and you need to redo the prompt? But either way, you're gonna then, each person in the group is gonna look for 1 or 2 evidence-based practice articles in a peer-reviewed journal about the intervention on the diagnosis in the case study, read the article, and then compare it. So you're doing all this before you meet with your team. Make some notes about whether you feel like the evidence-based practice articles align with what ChatGPT is recommending, or maybe not. Then you're going to meet with your colleagues and discuss your findings and your thoughts. And what you're trying to really boil down in that meeting is, what did ChatGPT do well, and what gaps or errors might have come up, and then come up with, based on the case, 1 specific challenge to address, and then generate a goal and an idea for how that would be addressed. So your case study is on an 80-year-old man named Lawrence Ashcroft, who is having some trouble with his ADLs because he has Parkinson's. And so it gives you a bunch of information about him. And then this is what each of you will fill in. So you're just you can fill in this whole document. I mean, just type it right here. What specific prompt did you enter? What were your initial thoughts? You're going to use APA formatting to cite the article or articles, and then fill in those boxes. And that's what you will submit. Questions, thoughts, anything else? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where did you find the teams? Okay. Thank you for saying that. So my students, it's gonna be just below that, right here. Oops, let me get to it. Oh, that's not the right one. Okay, let me upload the one with y'all's names too. I'll replace that just when we're done with this, but it'll be right there. And then complete for my students by March 12th at midnight. You can submit it right there on Blackboard. What else? Other questions, concerns? Yeah. That the prompt will, so you can copy and paste any or all of that case study, but then you're gonna tell it what to do with it. So that's kind of all of that is the prompt. So some of it will be what you're already given and some of it will be out of your head. Yes, Lindsay?
So for handing it in, we're just handing in like this, like table.
Yes.
Documentation.
Yep.
format. Okay.
Yeah, just hand in that template with what you and have, you know, your thoughts, but you can do it based on collaboration and kind of what you get from the ChatGPT. Anything else? All right, so what's your next step after we close this session?
Meeting Thursday.
Yeah, so you may want to go ahead and email, once I put the emails or the right teams up on there, one of y'all emails of each other and set up a meeting at a time that works for y'all. You probably need to meet for about 30 minutes. It's not gonna be too long, but before that meeting, you're gonna wanna read and do all that, like go into ChatGPT and get your evidence-based article and, you know, do that prep work, make some notes about how those things compare to what ChatGPT is telling you. And then meet and discuss all that, and you probably during the meeting can pretty much fill out that template for the assignment. Everybody good on that? All right, any other comments, national, state, anything from y'all?
We are good. I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank y'all. We look forward to it. I'm gonna give them the actual right team a list and they will, and y'all can reach out to each other.
That sounds great.
Thanks for your attention, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and happy Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Happy Valentine's Day. Bye.